about being out alone in the world, or they've heard a lot of negative things and are afraid to just venture out by themselves. So stay tuned. This video is just for you. Been to about 20 countries now, but in 16 of which have been solo trips, and that's pretty major for me. And I've just met a lot of people who have watched my journey over time, and I received an email, and this is what inspired this video, and I'm just going to read it to you. So I saw your Facebook post and wanted to reach out about some traveling inquiries. I've been wanting to take a solo trip for the longest, just for some soul searching and self-discovery purposes. But I don't know where to start, and I'm a bit nervous to travel alone, but I want to do it for my own personal growth. How would you suggest I get started? What places would be ideal for a first-time solo traveler as myself? How do I stay safe during these excursions? Are hostels the way to go when traveling alone? Any information will be appreciated. I get these questions every 2 to 3 days from people. Somebody hits me up on Facebook or Instagram, and they're just kind of apprehensive about hopping out there into the world, into the solo travel world, be it a woman or be a man. So I've compiled a list just for you guys of several things that I do to make sure that I'm not only safe, but I'm still having an amazing time in meeting people. So here we go. Let's hop right on in. First tip is to start small to get your feet wet, just to get acclimated to being by yourself and just being in a different environment, because group travel is a completely different story. So I would start with going to the movies by yourself, eating a meal by yourself, like at a restaurant, and then brunching yourself up. Like, say you haven't been out of your hometown, I would suggest traveling to another big city. So like LA, somewhere like Houston, Seattle, New York City, and just spending a few days there, seeing how well you do, how your anxiety is before you branch out internationally. And I think some good places to go internationally if you're starting out by yourself are places that can speak English. The language barrier along with the cultural barrier can add to a level of anxiety. And I know not everyone can do what I did, and I went directly to China. That was my first destination. So that was somewhat scary, but over time it was pretty cool and kind of set the pace for the rest of my solo travel. So I would hate for you to be in a situation where you've lost your passport, your paperwork, anything like that. So keep copies of all your documents. So what I do is I keep a hard copy in my bag or in my room. I keep a copy on my phone of all my stuff, just because I'm out, and I keep a copy of everything on my email. So just in case anything happens, I can always access it some kind of way. When you're traveling, you're out the room a lot. I do suggest getting a portable charger, as well as getting a charger that is specific to the country that you're in, because they're not all like in the United States, the two-prong. They vary from country to country. Also, do invest in an international phone plan if your service is not provided. And do get travel insurance, just because of anything that happens, you are covered. And it would suck to be by yourself and mayhem happens. Something that I'm pretty strict about is not posting on social media in real time. This is not only a safety thing, it's also, hey, let me enjoy this moment that I paid all this money to enjoy, and you guys can see it later. But as far as safety, you are basically telling a person where you are, especially when you're doing like the geotagging. Before you book a hotel, an excursion, before you stay at a restaurant, eat at a restaurant, you know what I'm saying? Look at the reviews. Go on Google Maps, go on Yelp, go on whatever is out there and read those reviews and look at pictures. Make sure they're not the pictures from the actual establishment. Make sure they're pictures that were posted from customers. And really, really read. Don't just read like the first two, three reviews. Like, get in there. Us women, we have our intuition, and I'm gonna just leave it at this and say, trust it. Avoid alcohol, especially to the point that your judgment is clouded. So if you drink, definitely go ahead and drink. Drink it to enjoy, but don't drink it to be blacked out, be drunk, especially at nighttime. It's one thing to be lost in the middle of the day, but to be drunk off your behind at the middle of the night, that's another story. And that's just a SVU episode waiting to happen. So I try to avoid night activity as much as possible. One, because I start my travel days, especially internationally, at like 6 in the morning, because that's when I'm going for most tours, and I'm usually tired by 7 p.m. at night anyway. So I do try to avoid nighttime activity unless I'm in a group tour. So be aware of your surroundings, but I wouldn't change it up to the point that you are paranoid. I usually try to keep the same level of caution as I would in like any other city, like if you were walking around New York, LA, like in the subway or whatever. And don't be so paranoid that you're unable to enjoy your trip. Like, you don't want to be consistently looking over your shoulder, but you just want to be aware of where you are. As far as purses and your valuables and belongings, try to be out in the street with as little as possible. And my thing is, try to make yourself look as unrobbable as possible. I know that's not a word, but you know exactly what I mean. So those chains, those watches, those diamond earrings, just keep them away. You don't really need it when you're just walking around. Your purses, try to avoid shoulder bags because you can easily grab that. Try to avoid bags with no zipper because a hand can easily go in it. Do aim to get bags that are crossbody bags, but bags with zippers. They have fanny packs, which are coming back in style now, so those are options you have too. The thing that is important is to do your research as far as your destinations. So something I do is, if I don't do it in the wherever I'm staying, that the hotel, hostel, Airbnb, I'll do it in a coffee shop in the morning. So I'll just go to a coffee shop, order my regular croissant coffee, and then I'm planning out my route that I'm walking. So doing this makes you look like less of a target in the street. Anybody that looks lost, you automatically know that they are not from there. That's potential right there. So I will map out my route, one, so I don't look lost, and two, for cost. And as far as cost, you try to go to places within the same area because you're cutting down on transportation costs and just, you know, going back and forth through the city. This is super important, and I think people forget that countries we travel to are not going to be like the countries that we come from. So it's important to respect others' customs as well as to learn their customs. So you don't want to go to a country that is known for being modest and just being there with booty shorts and a tank top or a crop top. Like, that's not okay. So research this country before you go there. That way you're not disrespecting a culture. Definitely talk to locals. Why? Because locals live there. They will have the best information, the places you want to go, the bars to be at, clubs to be at, the best restaurants to be at. This is what you want to experience. As well as you want to talk to locals and hear their stories, understand their day-to-day life, and just understand the culture a little bit more. Definitely want to take advantage of walking tours, and those are available in every city. And I feel like walking tours are the best way to see the city. But to actually be on the street and walking the daily life of a citizen is a completely different story. And I usually find walking tours on websites like Expedia, Viator. I'll even dip into a hostel and just ask, hey, do you have any tours available? And they usually always do. If you don't stay at the hostel, it's usually an additional fee for the tour, but it's usually never too bad. And I usually find lots of free ones as well. As far as booking tours, like I said, I use Expedia, I use Viator, I use Get Your Guide, And then something new you can do, most people don't know about, is that Airbnb offers experiences. So you can book directly through Airbnb. And that also, all these have reviews, so definitely go through reviews. I usually don't even bother touching anything that hasn't already been reviewed. A safety tip: if you feel like you are being followed, try to hop into a restaurant or any public area and just kind of wait it out until you feel like you're safe. Another question I'm asked is, how do I get around when I'm in these other countries and these other cities? And most people don't realize that these other countries also have rideshare. So they usually have Uber, they usually have Lyft, as well as their own country's rideshare. Like South Africa had their own one. I can't think of the name, but it was even cheaper than both of those. So I found this because I do this little trick where I put my address into Google Maps and go to the commuter option, and it showed Uber and Lyft, and it showed another one. I haven't heard of this one, but it's the same concept. And it shows you the price for all three. So I just go with whatever is the cheapest at the time. Safety tip is carrying a whistle just for when you're walking out in the street. You can blow the whistle to, bring attention to you, as well as a doorstop. Visit or stay in a hostel. I know it can sound kind of scary because of the movie they have out that has that negative connotation, but I've stayed in several different hostels. And my first international trip to China, I stayed in a hostel, and I did this to get my feet wet. But I didn't stay in a traditional dorm room where there's several beds. I stayed in a room that was a single bed, so it was just me. It was an en-suite, so I had my own bathroom. And I was still able to interact by going out into the common areas with everyone else. They had the bar, they had little different things, activities at night, like cooking together, karaoke things. So this is how you also meet people who can take your pictures, who you can venture out in the city with, because there's usually a tour at the hostel. You want to learn the basics of the language of the country you're going to. It's just common courtesy, and you're also going to be seen as, oh, you're trying. We respect that. So you're hi, bye, thank you, no, yes, please, bathroom, help. No matter the situation, always remain confident. Always keep your confidence and never let them see your crown fall. So even if you feel like you're lost, if you feel like nothing is going right, you feel like this is the worst trip ever, just remain confident. I just don't want you guys to be a target at any moment, and just keep it pushing. And last but not least, I say to buy local goods. Buying local goods supports the local economy. You might be supporting a family just by doing something so small as buying a little craft that they have, but you also come back with the most unique gifts and souvenirs possible. This is the end of my video, and I hope that you got something useful out of it, and I hope that maybe you are seeking out a solo trip even more now. If you have any questions or comments, definitely message me. I'll put my IG right here. You can DM me. Also send me a message on here. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any video ideas, definitely shoot me those too. And this has been
another one.
Refined Robin. See you guys next time.